Welcome to the Flower Prophecies, a podcast exploring all things flower essences and remedies and flower therapy, and how this vibrational plant medicine has the potential to heal and shift our individual and collective health and consciousness. We'll be diving deep into the specifics of individual essences, nature's energetics, emotional healing and growth, as well as hearing client case studies, hosting special guests and professionals, and I'll be sharing my own personal explorations and philosophies channeled straight from the flowers. Through my own unearthing, I have discovered what I believe to be the most profound teaching of the flowers, and I now wish to share with you the practice of alchemizing fear into beauty. Before we get into today's episode, I want to let you all know about my new offer that I have just opened the waitlist for. So the Blooming is an offering I have been working on for a few months now, and over this time I have had the privilege of working with some amazingly inspiring and powerful women who are ready to step into their fullest expression and who are working with the flowers to release what's in their way. Through doing this, I have heard the flowers calling to be used in this way more so. And as you'll hear us chat about in this episode, the flowers are here to meet us where we are at. They will offer us our shadows and show us that we have equally as much light waiting to be expressed. The Blooming is a monthly group flower therapy experience for the woman seeking to shed all fear from her being and body, to expand her peace and potential, and to create and embrace a life of beauty. Commencing in January 2024, I have curated 12 powerful remedies for the year ahead, each with a specific focus to unearth, month by month, undressing the layers of fear, pain, and conditioning to uncover your core essence, to reveal your divine gateway to communing with the natural world and all its wisdom. And through the magic of nature, we will be bringing the unconscious into the conscious to alchemize fear into beauty. Although you'll be traversing your unique healing experience, we will be working in live group sessions with myself and guest facilitators, and an intentional gathering space, a safe space to explore, be witnessed and reflected, and heal as a whole in connection with community, amplifying your healing potential. This offer will be available to sign up to on a monthly basis, quarterly, half-yearly, or for the entire year at discounted rates. I will be offering limited spaces for this first intake, and I would love to have you, my listeners, along for this journey. You can find all of the information and get your name on the waitlist now via the show notes or on my website. Enjoy the episode. So welcome back to the Flower Prophecies. Thank you to everyone who has been listening in so far, and also for your patience with my little break last week. If you have listened to a previous episode or episodes, I would be so appreciative if you would comment or rate or share them. And if you haven't subscribed to any of the channels yet, I would love it if you could do that. And it just helps to spread the flower magic a little bit further. So I'm Abby, and I am your host and flower essence practitioner. And at any time, if you feel interested in checking out flower therapy more so and my offerings, you can do so at hekahealing.com.au, or check me out on Instagram at Heka Healing Flower Therapy. So today, on today's episode, I'm excited to be chatting with one of my beautiful clients and my friend, Ebony Dew. And Eb is an artist who explores the relationship between colours and emotions through her abstract paintings. A creative at her core, I have had the pleasure of witnessing how her experience is continuously being expressed through her artistic practices. Eb is going to be sharing a little bit about her journey with working with flower essences and the impact that they have had for her. So thank you so much for being here.
Yay. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
Yay, me too.
My favourite things to talk about.
Yes. So Eb and I tend to rattle on for hours and hours. So that may or may not happen today. So brace yourself. It's just started raining a bit here. So if it's a little bit noisy, apologies. But let's get straight into it. So, Eb, I would love to know how it is that you first found flower essences and started using them, because I don't actually know this.
Okay. So I guess like it probably started when I was in my late teens. I started having like heaps of health issues, as you do when you've drinking a lot of cask wine and eating really badly and making poor teenage decisions. And honestly, prior to that, I had literally no knowledge of anything health related at all. So I kind of just discovered the whole natural world at around 18.
Yeah.
And I discovered a naturopath, basically. I didn't even know it existed. I just, it was just not even in my radar. And I think we may have dabbled in flower essences at that time, but I definitely, probably like most people, discovered the rescue remedy. Being a little creative, emotional, anxious gal, I was sculling that like no tomorrow and loving the little gummies that they have.
Yeah.
And I was just like, anything that will make me chill out, please, SOS at all times. Definitely probably started there. Didn't have like the biggest connection with it, but like I said, just tried anything at that point. And then probably a few years later, I started seeing like a few more different kind of practitioners, more spiritual energy based, or just even nutritionists or whatever, and started taking the Oz bush flower essences, which I loved because it just felt more, it's close to home. It's where my body is from, and it feels like a vibrational match.
Yeah.
So, and I always was under the impression that, there's traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine. And when you look at those medicine groups, the ingredients that they use and like value are from their own land. And the same way I was always interested in like, what is the Australian ancient medicinal plants? Like I was always curious to be like, yes, there's Chinese medicine. Yes, there's Ayurvedic and from there. And, and even with the rescue remedy and those flowers, they're from Europe. They're not from here. So I was always like super curious, like what's the Australians, the bush medicine and all of those beautiful local plants with our vibrations. And so the Australian bushflower essences really spoke to me. And as a, obsession with flower person, I was just like, yay, like so cute, like I love color. I love flowers. Like it just made me feel so good. Even just like the thought of it, like, So then I started my journey just by seeing practitioners, started studying naturopathy around like, I think it was maybe 21, 22. And I also did my like level 1 practitioner course in Australian bushflower essences. So that was really fun. And I did that with like a really beautiful close friend of mine. And we just went and did that in Brisbane and for the weekend. And I just loved it so much. And I just love like the mystery of it and the magic of it. Like it's not just like A plus B equals C. It's like, oh, I don't know. It's just, what do you think it is? And you're just like, whoa, like magic potions.
Right? I love it too.
So and it comes with a deck of cards. Like how much more magical can you get? So exciting.
Yeah.
I've come in and out of contact with the flower essences throughout my 20s, and I just turned 31. So I've had like a good 10 years of like coming in and out of contact with them. So that's how I kind of came to know them, I suppose. Yeah.
I love that. And it's interesting that you do mention how you felt so much more drawn to the Australian bushflower essences, being that they're native.
And you just know them, you know them from your whole life. You know Banksia, you know the Casuarina she oaks, and you know the Hibiscus. Like it just feels like family. Like it's like, it's that. Yeah, I'll have that. I know, I've been growing up in that environment.
Yeah.
And I know the vibration already just by being here, you know, but whereas like milk thistle or whatever random plant from England, you know, I don't know the plant. I don't know where it grows. I don't know how it is or what it smells like or anything about it. So I found it a bit like just not as, just not as in sync with me, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And they speak of that as well, you know, like Ian White, the founder, he speaks about that, and many people who have written about the flower essences say that they have so much more power and potency when they're working with you in the land that you are native to, right? It just happens that way because you are a part of that land, and so the power is almost like magnified.
And I was just chilling on your balcony reading a book, which was about, I think it's called Womb Awakening.
Yeah.
And at the time I was like getting super into like womb studies, and I was about to study womb and fertility massage therapy. And I was just like, just totally in the world of the menstrual cycle and all of that. And you came home and you were like, what are you doing? And I was like, just chilling. I'm just reading my book. You're like, you know, because I kind of keep those things under wrap a little bit, because they can be a bit like, oh, that's, you know, a bit how you going, you know, just reading about womb awakening and all that stuff. And so I was just like, oh, you know, I'm reading. You're like, yeah, but what are you reading? And I was like, oh, like, it's this book, Womb Awakening. and then you were just like, I remember you just lit up, like your face was like, eyes wide, like, oh, someone, you know, when you recognize someone else is interested in a similar thing. So we ended up chatting heaps, and I was like, oh my God, yes, I'm so excited, because when I studied to be a practitioner of the essences, as much as I loved it, I just never connected with it as a expression of mine, like to offer, but I love to receive them. But so when I found you, and I was like, yes, oh, this is so good. Like I can receive them. And because when I would go to make my own, I would just feel a bit like, oh, this isn't my, you know, my offering or my service. Yeah. So when we started, I was just probably studying so much. I was learning all these different modalities. I think over my 20s, I must have learned at least like 15 different modalities in the health and wellness industry, including like, you know, more emotional work and spiritual work. All of it. I'd studied it all. I was just obsessed. Yeah. So I think when we first began, I was like so keen on it, but I was a bit like, oh yeah, like, but I'm kind of busy focusing on all this other stuff. So I probably didn't pay as much acute attention to like what I was actually receiving and what I was actually trying to accomplish with my flower essence blends. But I always had them around as just like a bit of a, I know you're doing something, but I can't focus on it right now sort of thing. You know, it's like, oh, I know I'm eating veggies. I can't remember what it's for because I'm busy, but I know it's do something in the end sort of thing. So it was kind of like that relationship for probably the majority of like the first half of that year even. And I also was seeing like a few other practitioners for like spiritual, emotional support. And so I kind of didn't lean too heavily into the flowers at that time. But since then, I am just kind of like cruising on my own, doing my own thing. And I just like have had a whole level up with my flower essences. And honestly, specifically this one and my previous one, which a few of the blends you gave me, I only took for like 2 days. Like sometimes I just felt like I'm done. And that was it. And whereas these blends that I've had the last 2 times, I have been like, no, I need to take this for like a minimum 1 month, like at the very least, because it's just so much coming from it. And I'm really like absorbing, I'm available to receive it a bit more because I'm actually just put a bit of a like quieten down the noise from other people in my surroundings. And when you come into your own space and into your own well, I guess authority is probably a good word since it's in my current blend. You start to kind of, you hear more, you can hear yourself more. And if you're hearing yourself more, you're obviously hearing the flowers more. So because obviously they're one and the same thing.
Yeah.
So, that's my intention with them at the moment is definitely different to when we started and definitely more focused.
Yeah.
Which aligns with what I'm trying to do in other aspects of my life too, where I'm trying to really focus, really narrow down, really get committed, really get consistent with, with my artwork practice, with my meditation practice, with my movement practice, like it's kind of just fits into the rainbow of what I'm working on at the moment, I suppose.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to hear that experience as well, because, I've mentioned in previous episodes how if you're not in the place to work with the flowers like really intentionally, but you're still using them, the flowers then gift that to you. So it's like, you may just not be there to pay attention to anything that they're doing or even know what they're working on or anything. But if you keep on taking them and, you go and you get the blends and you keep on taking them, eventually they shift you into a place where you're able to receive and actually then work with them. So
definitely. And I think you've also mentioned in previous episodes about how the flowers meet you where you're at. And I think on one hand, you can keep taking them and you'll end up receiving it in the end because you'll just gradually get there. But on the other hand, if you, like me, just take them for a couple of days and don't take them, I just purely wasn't ready to get into it. And so the flowers just met me where I was at, which was just a day or two and then that's it. You know what I mean? So it just wasn't until I was actually I'm ready to make an actual action in my life, which I actually have noticed a correlation between the flowers and action rather than just passively receiving.
Yes.
It's not you don't just take a flower essence and it fixes you or it makes you feel better. It's you take a flower essence and in doing it, you're taking an essence, you're actioning, right? You're making an action, which is a choice, which creates a reality. And then it goes on from there. So if you're actively taking them, then you're actively receiving it and making choices to change yourself. You know what I mean? So it's almost like you decide what you're trying to create. You box that up, and every time you literally take it, you're making an action toward a change, because change doesn't happen without action. So it's really interesting to notice the shift in my reality when I stopped playing the victim, but also just playing a bit of I don't even know the word for it, but just being someone else do this for me,
taking responsibility for it.
Taking responsibility, exactly. Accountability is responsibility, all those beautiful, healthy masculine traits. Funnily, with my red orchid moment. I think it's interesting to see the difference with the action applied, and not just being Abby said this will make me feel happy and make me feel in my heart. So then it will, I guess. Will I just wake up feeling better? No, you've got to, you work with it. And it's just bringing it back to the plant metaphor again. If you're not watering and fertilizing your plants and giving it a great environment to grow in, well, the plant is going to grow, but it's not going to do well, if at all. So, the plants are going to be there with you, but
you'll be a bit malnourished.
Got to work with it,
It's so interesting, though, that, you're bringing all of this up, because I was actually having a conversation with someone this morning about this. And I think a lot of the time we do, we go to practitioners and we do give our power away and wipe our hands of any responsibility. We go to them to make us feel better, but then we don't do anything on the risk, on the end of it, to actually,
to assist ourselves. At the end of the day, you are the only healer essentially that's going to. I mean, in certain circumstances, you need support, but and I think the health industry, not the natural health, even the natural health industry to an extent, because it's kind of you're suffering this, take a supplement. Oh, yes, you've got a headache, take a Panadol, which, by all means is fucking great. It helps helps you. It does. And then I think just growing up with the beautiful and amazing healthcare system that we have, we get a little bit reliant on it and just go, oh, something can take this away, right? Like someone else can do this for me. But unfortunately, that doesn't really translate into emotions and spirit and joy and pleasure. Like those things are kind of self-made.
Yeah. And it's also not sustainable,
Well, no, it's nobody else's job to do those things for you.
Yeah.
But to support you 100%.
Yeah.
And teach you and, be there for your growth. But and I just feel like my relationship has changed with the flowers, having had a mindset shift of I'm the one responsible for my own experience.
Yeah.
And when I take my essences, I'm making a conscious effort and a conscious choice toward a life that I am designing. I get to choose, and not just like, oh, someone once told me I will never be good enough to be an artist, whatever it was. And then I just was like, oh, well, that's it then. Give that away. Like, oh, well, you get to choose. So
it's all a choice. Absolutely.
My flower essence experience has been so intense because of it. But, and that's just how it is. Like, that's just because that's where it meets the intensity of my experience of what I'm trying to shift. And I always think about, if you go and watch the sunrise somewhere, and you stand in front of the sunrise, the sun is so intense because it's coming at you like on the horizon, straight up, like straight in front of you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, because of the angle and because there's so much light, your shadow is like so long compared to, midday sun. It's right on top of you. You don't have much of a shadow. So it's like this much light is this much the opposite way.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
Yeah, so when you're going into flower essences going, I want to experience that much joy and that much pleasure and that much whatever it is, then it's wherever you're at. Like if you start in the middle and you're ready to go here, it brings you to this awareness, in the opposite side in your, your emotions and stuff you're experiencing. So like that's something I'm always aware of when I dive into an essence. I'm like, okay, well, sounds great, but the opposite of those things are a little bit intense, and I know I'm going to be processing them, but at the end of the day, you kind of actively keep your mind focused on those positive outcomes you're trying to achieve. And that's what I think helps me by having like your beautiful affirmation card.
Yeah.
And it keeps you like, no, I know I'm feeling shit. It's because I'm feeling all these things, but actually I want to feel this, and that's where I'm going. And remember, like drill it in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, beautiful. Oh, that's so lovely to hear. I really like that. And it's so true too, because I'm not sure if I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but, I've been working with a lot of women lately who are like at a level where they're like ready to go, right? Like they're ready to like step up. And, there's just like a few sort of things there for them that they like want to work through. And the flower essences meet them in their potential, and they hit them quite like hard, like, with their shadow, and like with this is what you got to move to step into like this most powerful version of yourself, right? And it's like, but it also just shows, I think the beauty in that is that it shows each person how powerful they are, because it's like, if this is like impacting me this much, I have, like you said, that same distance, potential and power to step into, right?
Yeah.
So it's like it's challenging and uncomfortable, but it's also being like, you've got so much to give and so much to step into, And
I think like, even if you can experience that level of intense emotions on an uncomfortable scale, then you have the potential and the possibility in your body to experience them on the other side of the scale. Like it's a possible, and that's something that I personally forgot, because I've been in a state of really pretty intense anxiety and just feeling horrible for a long ass time, like probably my entire, maybe half my life even, like I've struggled with it. So I started to believe like, oh, this is just my reality. This is my base. And then, it wasn't actually till recently I was like, hang on, if I can conjure up all of this, intensity and feeling just from my thoughts and my experiences, then imagine what I could experience on the other way, on the other side.
Yeah.
So it's actually it was nice to remember that was possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And the flowers definitely bring you back into reminding you.
Yeah.
It's okay. Life's actually good as well. Don't forget it's about balance and yeah.
Oh, so good. I mean, I sound like such an obsessive nerd with them, but I'm just they're so good.
But it is.
They're just flowers, and they have this amazing power to them.
The best things in life with the most power are the most subtle, and it's just like a margarita pizza. It's a good base and a good tomato, and it's simple, but it's so potent. It's
love it. Oh, it's so good.
Journaling, it's some kind of crazy magic, but it's powerful, and you just go, oh, but all I'm doing is writing on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
But it has this profound effect.
So true. So true. And it's funny too, because I feel like often people they do themselves a disservice because they sort of disregard the simple practices, thinking this isn't going to help me. When we're talking, they have the most potential to help you.
Do you know what? I actually had quite a big revelation about this just 2 days ago. And I was thinking, for probably the last 5-6 years, I've been aware of the fact that I'm not fully expressing myself, aware of the fact that I'm not being myself 100% authentic sort of feeling. And I always had this belief that it was if I'm not expressing myself, then the thing I'm not expressing must be so drastic and so out there and so big and so whatever, so different from who I actually am showing up as. And I'm so I just believed it was so much different to who I am, right? Because I felt like I'm not expressing myself, so whatever I'm trying to not express, it must be really massive. And then just the other day, a few weeks ago, I just started doing small changes. I was just I'm going to get up every morning, do my morning rhythms, and every time I feel anxious but I want to do something, I'm just going to do it. Even if it's as small as making a cup of cacao in the morning, and that's it, I'm just going to acknowledge it and go do it. And then I was like, oh, the things I'm not expressing are all the little small points in the day where I go, I really want to make a cacao. Oh, now I feel anxious for whatever reason. I'm not going to do it. And it was just one small thing.
Yes.
I didn't do and follow through my heart and follow through my desire that got denied. And then 10 minutes later, I go, I really feel like going for a walk. Oh, but I don't know, all these other things. One small thing.
Yeah.
And I realized during the day, and I was like, I feel so good. I feel like me. And even my partner was saying, you're just so you at the moment. It's your whole energy's changed. You just so, I can see you, I can actually reach you.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I'm not really being any different, but the only thing I'm doing is I'm doing the little things in the day that I really want to do without giving into my fears and anxieties.
Yeah.
And it was just oh, it's not this big drastic personality change and full shift of life and dye my hair blue and be crazy and outrageous with my change and expression. It was actually just all the little bits compounded over time.
Yeah.
So every single time I just denied a time that, just that pure desire, just the flow shut me down. And I was like, it's really so much smaller than you think. It's not that, oh, I wish I was an astronaut and I'm not expressing my true self. It was actually just the small things because and it was such a cool realization because the same thing with the flower essences and all of those things. It's just all the small changes and shifts create compound effect. It's just like investing in shares, and compound interest. Like it does work for you in a big way over time.
I love it. I love it. It's actually also, of course, so synchronistic as well. Like I was thinking this exact thing about expression, like expression of self, like from in my own experience, literally as I was going to sleep last night. and I was thinking, like, I know somewhere deep down I'm not expressing myself like through language the way that I want to be, but I don't see how, because I feel like I am, but there was like this like little thing in my head going, you're not expressing yourself.
Yeah.
And the same thing, I realized it was that the way that I'm expressing myself is actually not completely authentic in what it is that I'm expressing. So, and it's in the subtlest of ways, right? Of like the way I say something is out of anticipation of how the person is going to receive it, rather than just saying exactly what I mean,
Exactly. Yeah.
And it creates this huge story in between, rather than just this subtle shift. And this is where I'm not expressing myself, right? And it's just like that tiny thing, like,
I think we have that beautiful ability to be so sensitive and aware of those disconnects, but then can just take it's like the world just went tiny bit shift.
Yeah.
And we're just like, it's the biggest shift that ever happened in the world. And you think, oh, it's this massive thing I'm not doing. Yeah. But really, it's just when you feel, I want to say this but I'm not sure how they'll see, it's disconnect, but it's a small little moment fracture.
Yeah.
But then you take that and blow it up. So it's just like, if you remember that it's just a tiny fracture and you just actually next time choose it.
Yeah.
You honestly mend all these tiny cracks, and it kind of, the image in my brain I'm getting right now is like on the Pantene ad where the hair follicle like smooths out, on the ad they like zoom in on the hair and it's all like has all the tiny little cracks, and then it's like all smooth, like it honestly, and then all your energy becomes
beautiful
into one. It's not leaking out and cracked into all these places where you're thinking about it and overthinking it and trying to work it out. And what is the story? It's just like, just let it go, drop back, calm the F down.
Yeah.
What is it? Okay, I'm just not saying, I'm just not going for a walk and I want to. That's it.
And it's always the fear that gets in the way. It's always the fear. Yeah.
That causes little fractures and splinters. And
I also just love how you've brought the reference back to hair, because it always comes to hair with you.
It's just how I just learn how to express myself. So fun.
Really? Love
every
it.
time.
Oh, I love it. All right. So you're someone who is very connected to nature very naturally. And it's been really beautiful while we've been working together, how you have like been able to reflect, I guess, on past times where you sort of connect with nature and specifically with like flowers and plants in a way. And then now working with the essences more so intentionally, you can sort of reflect on what they were gifting you in those moments, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then continuing on, like they're obviously still presenting, these messages to you in that same way. Do you feel now like you're a bit more attuned to receiving them and sort of being open to what it is that they're guiding you with?
Definitely. Like I like you said, I've always been interested in the metaphysical, and just, receiving inspiration is a form of communication as well, I believe. And and just information, ideas, anything from any living, plant or anything. So just last night, me and my partner were reflecting on the flowers on our balcony, because we just recently moved a plant from our back garden to the front garden.
Yeah.
And we're east-west facing, so we get west sun, east sunrise. So, sorry, sunset and sunrise. So anyway, this plant, which was previously facing the front, is now completely turned around to face the other way.
Yeah. And
I was like, just, babe, like, look at the flowers. It's it's a living being. It's not just a plant, you know, or it's not just something. It's moving, it's shaping, and it's not just like one, you know, falling around to face the sun. Like, no, it's facing the sun all day, the other way. Like it's putting effort in and changing direction. So I'm super aware of energy and in any living thing on our planet. So I'm happy to receive from anywhere, really. And definitely with the plants, like there's one tree on my block, which is a she oak casuarina tree, which actually has a funny story attached to it, but I probably won't go into it because I could talk forever about this tree. But so where my partner lives, which is where I also live now, I didn't always live here. So I used to come over and stay over and walk down to the beach and walk past it. And a few times I had these like piercingly clear inspiration or like a word or like a slogan come into my mind whilst at this particular corner. Like every time I'd walk up to the beach, have a great time, you know, whatever. And I'd just be walking back, not expecting anything. And then suddenly it's just like, ideas or like, you know, like you got to go make this quick, like go make this thing or this expression's coming through. And when you put that together with the she oak in the Oz Bushflower Essences story, it connects in with obviously women's health, but in particularly the ovaries. And when you think about the ovaries, it's just like a constant ball of creation energy. So creativity and all of that stuff. So I was always receiving, and I still always say hello to her every time I walk past this tree. We hang out sometimes. So.
Yes, you gotta.
And, so I receive heaps from the plants. I even just recently, like in the last 6 months, went with my partner to Brekkie at this really cute cafe, but it's also like a native nursery. And there was this one plant there that I was just like fell in love with for no apparent reason and brought it home, realized it's actually a Vitex plant, which a Vitex is a really beautiful supplement for progesterone levels and hormone balancing and all these things I was already taking as a supplement. Same time. And I was just like, oh, like so cute. Like, you know, we're hanging out. And she just like became a little symbol of my cycle. And I kind of just sit with it sometimes. And I put my energy into it and just think of it as my cycle on the outside. And heaps of ways. Like I always get inspo and guidance from plants. Even last night we have one of those beautiful what's their name? It's a type of cactus, the really tall ones, the skinny, like
oh yes,
anyway, she flowered last night and it only flowers one time in the night, and my partner and I just absolutely lose our marbles when it happens because it's just like, oh my god, like get the camera quick, oh my god, it's happening, like it's just like
I've done it before.
You know, everyone, if you know, you know, like it's so exciting. And I just like stood there and I could just like, whoa, it was like I felt in my belly this like wave after wave after wave of just like white light. Like it was just so, and I just wanted to just bask in this presence. Like I just felt so
cleansing.
Oh, it was so beautiful and just a moment, you know, with nature. And I think whether or not you like believe in them sending you messages or not, it doesn't matter. It's more that you're in the presence of another being's energy, which will shape the way that you're thinking or feeling or interacting with life, which then opens up your own experience too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, get creative.
Absolutely. And I think it's I love about the Vitex plant as well, because I don't know whether other people who are listening, because I actually have no idea who listens to this podcast.
Me.
But whether this is something that they may do for themselves or not, but you know, when we are taking a supplement or something like that, we're internally taking something or using, it's also so like, if you can, it's so amazing to like put yourself in the presence of that actual natural substance because of the energetics you get from it, right? Because they're so healing in such different ways as well than what you're getting from the supplement or the cream or whatever it may be. Like, it heals in different ways when you're just in their presence, or when you're like, you know, you might create an essence from it, which is that energetic imprint as well.
Totally.
But like, if you have the ability to be around an actual plant or tree or whatever natural thing it is, while taking it, like, that will just magnify it like tenfold, you know.
And even like if you're the kind of person that isn't maybe, you know, aware of subtle energy changes and things like that, it's still a visual clue. It's essentially a visual affirmation.
Yeah.
And I guess if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably interested in all these things and know what affirmations are and how they work. But it's just that repetitive, like, I guess you're just reshaping your thought, you know, pathways. And then every time you see it, you remember, oh, how's my hormones today? Or, oh, yeah, I'm working on my cycle. That's right. You know, even if you're just, that's where you're at in terms of metaphysical, energetic stuff or not, like, it doesn't really matter. It's just, it's seeing it every day. It's like, visual affirmation, I think, is probably the best description I could think of. Yeah,
absolutely. And even to the point, like, this is obviously something that is used in a lot of, you know, herbalist practices, naturopathy practices with the flower essences. When you're working with nature, is that doctrine of signatures as well, which is like the, you know, the representation of the whatever species you're working with can actually like show you the part of the body or like the realm of the physical or whatever it is that it's actually working on. It's like the she oak, for example, like, you look at it, it looks like ovaries.
Yeah, and avocados for pregnancy and all those things.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just like, even the messages of nature in that way, you know, if you can become aware to it, you know, you might be going through something and a plant you pass by might catch your eye for some reason. Can you stop and can you reflect and be like, what is this? What is this showing me? Maybe I need this in my life. Maybe I can take this little flower with me and, you know, have it on me for the rest of the day or the week or whatever it is.
Yeah, definitely. And colors even as well can play a massive part in that. And obviously as an artist, I'm always interested in color and light and how that works and plays. All the different plants will, you know, that's what they're there for. They're there to get attention, you know, from bugs and insects are flying all day, but it does the same thing for us. It gets your attention and does that for a reason.
For sure. Absolutely. So you mentioned you're an art. We've talked about that you're an artist, a creative. Do you believe working with the flowers has helped you to embrace or even to evolve this practice or this side of you more so, or any parts of you really?
I would say obviously, definitely, but to elaborate, I think like just being, you know what, I think every single person and living thing on the planet has the ability to feel into their emotions, feel into energy, feel into spirituality, whatever it is, and their body. And I think everybody's born that way. And then there are others that are just less susceptible to peer pressure and social conditioning, and they continue to hold those, you know, skills longer in their lives. And so I think for me, like, I was obviously one of those people who kept those skills alive. It just made my heart light on fire in the good way. But at the same time, I struggled a lot feeling different because I was so sensitive to all the things, literally all the things. And I felt different for that reason and didn't realize that other people, every single other being on this planet has the abilities to feel all those things too. And then they maybe just don't, or, you know, it gets blocked out, or you get busy or whatever it is. Anyway, so I think like coming into presence with the flower essences, plants in general, and my artwork gives me a space that's really comfortable and safe to remember that it's okay to have all of those skills and all of those experiences and all of those sensitivities, because it's just a natural way of being in the world. And when you're a child, you have all of those things even more, and it's amazing. And everybody wants to be a kid again, and everybody loves, watching their kids explore the world and the freedom they have in just being allowed to have all of those experiences.
Yeah.
And then as you grow up into our somewhat rigid society, those things become kind of labeled as bad or intense or scary or whatever. So, yeah, I think coming into connection with the flower essences probably just, gave me that sense of comfort to accept who I was, and that it wasn't a bad thing, and that it was actually a natural thing, which gives me the power and the gift and the ability to create from that place in artwork. And that serves people because they're able to see themselves reflected back in that work, because they go, oh, hey, she feels that emotion. I felt that sometimes as well. Like,
love
does that mean I'm not a bad person, or I'm not wrong for having these experiences or feeling or being, sensitive?
Yeah.
So when I was younger, like I was saying, I studied a bunch of natural therapies and spiritual work and all of that stuff. I even started taking clients, which you were one of my clients, which was lovely. And I loved it, but there was it was a bit too, like, I was trying really hard, like I was trying really hard to remember everything, and it felt like I loved it, but it wasn't quite it, and then I realized that I could bring in what I'd learned from studying all this time, which was actually just to just chill out and let yourself be who you are. In the end of the day, it's so much easier than you think. Yeah. which is difficult to get to, but anyway, I discovered that I was able to serve people better and myself through channeling that expression into my artwork, and just trying to be comfy actually painting what scares you. And for me, that was my intense emotional experiences that I have every single day. So I feel like in my most recent work, especially, it's very honest and very clear. I'm really focusing on staying consistent, because I believe that's going to help me channel my message in a more potent way and stop, like, I used to be a bit smoke and mirrors with my artwork, one day I'm doing this, one day I'm doing that, and next thing I'm sewing, and next thing I'm this and that, which is cool. Like, for me as a creative, I of course want to be making art all the time and having fun, but as an offering to others, as an act of service, I realized that channeling it into like a particular avenue was the most direct, most potent thing I could do for myself, and also for others who are going to receive it, and to just literally say what I mean. And that for me is a bit of a big deal, because I just used to be like, oh, I'll make it a bit not androgynous is probably not the word, but maybe androgynous in terms of, like, you don't know what I'm trying to say. You don't know who I'm trying to be or what I am. So then you can't judge me, and I'm not wrong. I don't hurt anyone's feelings, I don't make anyone uncomfortable. And that's been something that I've had to come to terms with as an adult, is like, you make people uncomfortable because they're not comfy in their own experience of their emotions, and they see that you can, or they're allowed to, and it's scary. And so painting how I feel and meaning what I say and saying what I mean is like very very in my thoughts right now. And my flower essences are really helping me to stay grounded in that truth and like really push through with it, because I'm getting that like really subtle and beautiful support from this blend that I have, all the blends I have had lately, to just like, send me on my path. Like, because otherwise it's, what's the point of having all this creative energy? I'm doing a disservice to myself and everyone who might need my work.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it. So yeah, I think like recently, as I said, like I've been ramping up my journey with the essences. And at the same time, my work has really gone like an extra level.
And it's bloody beautiful.
Thanks. And even to the point the other day, I got into my studio, I was painting, and I made this really ugly painting. And I was like, oh, shit, like, what am I going to do with this painting? Like, it's completely ugly. Like, it just was so uncomfortable. It didn't work out. And I was like, oh, I should. And I know already because I said I should. But my mind was saying, oh, I should maybe like paint like I don't know, like a flower, or I'll try really hard and paint, something on it on purpose. And then I was like, hang on, I need to stop. I just laid on my floor and did breathing and meditated for like 5 minutes. And I literally sat up, woke up, and I was like, you know what? I love abstract. I love being in free flow with my creative work. I'm okay. I'm allowed to just make abstract, and that's okay, and that's valuable. And with my essence that I'm working with at the moment, part of it is being in your heart, exploring that childlike,
spontaneity,
energy, but also receiving, learning how to receive. And if I wasn't in a place where I was open to receiving that insight, I would have forced myself down the path of, oh, if I didn't paint like a beautiful, realistic flower over the top, I'm not really an artist. I'm not really valuable. I'm not really skilled. But when I sat there and I just connected deeper down in, I was like, you know what? I'm an abstract artist and I'm okay with that. Yeah. And I made the best painting over the top of this painting. I just sat there and made like an abstract painting, which is my that dark blue one with the flannel flower on it. And it was just like, there you go. Once you allowed yourself to just, because I got the message, and prior I would have just been like, nah, I'm just going to deny that, and working with this blend I'm on right now, I'm just like, actually, no, I heard the message and I'm going to act on it. I'm not just going to let it go and then woe is me when things don't work out.
Yeah. So, expressing with your authenticity.
Exactly. So a bit of a long-winded answer, but
no, I love it. I love hearing the process behind it and just what it all brings up for you. Yeah.
And the other part of it, I guess, is you and I talked about this in my last session, was that I was painting these little dark blue spots in all of my work. And that actual dark blue color has been with me for like 6 or more years. Like when I painted my first collection for my first exhibition, it was like the color of my palette. Like I loved it. And I've recently just brought it in, and when we spoke about it, it's like these little pain points, these little stones of anger and all this stuff have been in my body. And like now that I'm feeling comfortable to explore these more, because you know what? You paint them and you feel uncomfortable. And sometimes I have to put my paintings away, like upside down out of my sight, because I can't look at them because I've painted something real and I've painted something that I'm going through. And I've actually had to admit that I'm feeling a certain emotion or whatever. And sometimes I don't want to,
Yeah.
But by painting it and following through and being brave, it hopefully gives other people a sense of connection and a place where they can feel safe to be exploring their own emotions as well.
Really?
So that's my intention with my work at the moment, for sure.
I love it. It's beautiful. I'm drawn to all of your paintings, the recent ones that you've been sharing. Like I feel so drawn to them. So they're obviously like reflecting something in me as well.
Yeah. And I think because, they're bright and they're fun and they're all, relaxed, but they're not. It just feels a bit like, am I even allowed to do this? Like, this is so fun. Like, is this even allowed? Is this even like worth anything? Like it feels too good to be true in some sense.
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of used to the belief that I have to paint something, like these whales, love them, but it's like I tried really hard to paint something so that people would think I was skilled or I was an artist, but actually you're an artist when you're just being yourself and you're living in your creative flow, whatever you're doing.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Love it. I love it. Well, I might just ask you one final question.
Yeah.
This is something that I sort of am trying to ask everyone. I don't think I've been very successful in doing so, but I will ask you, what do you believe the collective needs most right now?
This is a hard one for me to answer because I can really see the expansiveness of what a collective is. And I just feel like, everything I say is going to be in some way tainted with my own personal experience. But I actually thought about this earlier and I was thinking, what's it going to be? And what kept coming to my mind was we need less smarts and more hearts.
Oh, I love that. Oh, my God.
So I was like, we're as a civilization, we're pretty damn smart. We've cultivated our minds and our knowledge and our skills. And prior to that, I feel that our primitive language was quite heart-filled because it was just natural. I was just thinking we don't need to grow our smarts anymore, not that we would stop, but I think it's time to it's uniting those forces together now is probably where I feel would be. I mean, it's such a big question. I
know, but of course that's so aligned with what I'm moving through with right now as well. And sort of like the whole emphasis on our language and, like I'm feeling such a disconnect to this, lack of language right now, this way of articulating our smarts, right? And like all that we know, and it's like I'm just feel like there's something deep within me that it's like you have so much within you that can be expressed with a different language, like in a different way.
100%.
Like it doesn't have to be through this like wordy, like don't have the words for it. And this is it, right? I don't have the words for it. It's like
the point is that I understand you. And that's the thing, is that you need not say anything.
I love it.
Because I get it. You know what I mean? So I just feel that's probably, and the other thing I was thinking was we just need some damn peace and quiet. We just need some space.
Yes.
Because if you don't have space, you don't have access to your heart or your mind or the connection between the two. So coming out of the place of noise where everybody has their opinions and everybody has their experiences, which is obviously correct. Like, everybody's experiences is their experience.
Yeah.
And then take yourself out, have a minute. Where am I at? What do I feel? What do I think?
Yeah.
How do they connect?
Yeah.
Then act, and then people can receive your expression without in whatever way you're trying to.
And this is the same concept, right? Like less smarts and more hearts, because it's like you're communicating with space. Like you're not just over like blabbering out all this mumbo jumbo in all the spaces, we're like filling up all the spaces with like all this information. And it's like, no, we don't need all of that information. We just need the space and the
Get
feel
to the heart of it.
and the intention at the heart of it, right? Yeah.
100%. And I think things can be a lot more simplified if we just allow them to be. And it's just like I was saying earlier, I just wanted to make a cacao and I just did that. And that was it. You know what I mean? And that was that. That freed me up. My expression, who I am and what I was doing didn't really change. And yet my partner was like, whoa, you're like a completely different person. I was like, oh, I didn't even do anything. But he got my expression. I didn't have to say, hey, I'm going to do all these things and this is my intention and this is what I think should happen after that. And A plus B equals C. But I just went ahead and did it. I followed my heart. And they received it. And same with my art. You received it and I didn't have to say anything.
Yeah.
And actually that's something I've been trying to focus on, is saying less in my say less, very Gen Z. But less in my Instagram captions and stuff, because I'm just like,
Let people interpret it themselves.
You know what it is. I don't need to tell you. I've said what I've said in my work, and I've just been going #art.
I love it.
I've just been like, here's a painting, it's acrylic, blah, 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 #art. Like, I'm not going to tell you anything else. You got the pic, you get it. Like,
yeah.
I'm not going to lead you astray. I'm not going to smoke some mirrors.
Yeah.
I'm going to explain it with my brain. Because if I do that, you lose a bit of the magic too. You lose the potency as well.
Yeah.
So I've been really taking that a bit more to consideration when I'm sharing my work. I'm telling you what I've done, and then it's up to you. Because I want to empower you to use your own creative brain and your creative muscles, because sometimes you're like, what does it mean? What does it mean? Or what Disney princess am I? Like, I wanted you to tell me about myself.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, no.
Yeah.
I've done the work that I needed to do to bring you to that thought, and it's up to you. You take the action and
take that responsibility.
Take your authority, take it and run with it, because it is whatever you perceive it to be.
Oh.
But you don't know that if you're in your smarts. You only know that if you're in your heart. But you need your smarts to put work to like understand it.
Yes. Yeah. And then you step out of the smarts and back in.
Exactly. Yeah. Hey, I felt something in my heart, brain. Can you tell me the words for it's this? Oh, thanks. Bye.
Oh, I love it so much. And this has been such a beautiful conversation. I had no idea which way, but I love it.
Podcast,
and also so very synchronistic, everything that, as it always is, that we've covered. And is there anything else that you would like to share on your very first podcast?
Oh my gosh. I just feel that if you're interested in flower essences, but you don't get it, or you think it's weird, or you think it's woo-woo, or you're like, that's not a real thing, like, nothing's stopping you from just trying it. And honestly, even when I started, I was even as the most spiritual, weirdest person, I was always like, does that even work though? Like, you still think there's doubts, there's whatever, your brain gets in the way.
Yeah.
But I personally just think flower essences are so beautiful, so nurturing and supportive. And especially my sessions with you, I love them so much. We just laugh the whole damn time.
I love it.
And I honestly believe like laughing is so much better than feeling immense pain. Like, why wouldn't you rather just have an enjoyable, fun and light time with it? So I don't know, if you're interested in trying it, just give it a go, especially with Abby. You are just such a little light beam, and I love seeing you and your growth, and and just the potency in your essences is just incredible, and I love them so much. And I love your podcast so much. I've been listening to it when I'm doing my morning stretches.
Thank you. I know one person that listens to it now.
Yeah, it's me. I think I don't have anything else to share.
Beautiful. Oh, thank you so much for coming on and sharing about your experience and about just, your life experience and like where you're at and your art and your passion. I love it. I love it all.
Thanks for having me.
I just wanted to touch on the joy thing as well, because like I've been reflecting on this recently as well. And I think it's just such a crucial part of like healing is like finding the joy in it all, because we can still process like deep, painful emotion while holding joy. I think 100%. I believe that anyway. And I think, that's kind of one of the real keys, I think, to being able to move through it with ease.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, you get to choose your outlet, so you may as well choose laughter and having a good time, because otherwise,
So if anyone wants to check out your beautiful art, where can they do that?
So at the moment, I'm just sharing my work on Instagram. It's ebony.dew, DEW _art. So I will be posting everything on there for now, and I'm busy working on creating a whole new collection of work, which I'm hoping to exhibit at my new studio at some point when I'm ready.
Yes.
So everything to do with that will be on there. And eventually when my site is ready to host all the new work, that will be up too. But you can just catch me on there for now and find all the updates.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope that you all enjoyed this conversation. I feel like everyone's going to absolutely love this one. Like, I just really enjoyed it. So I hope everyone enjoyed. And once again, if you did like it, I would absolutely love it if you could subscribe to the channel you're watching or listening on, and share or rate or comment or any of those things. I will be back again next week with another special guest that I'm interviewing. So thank you everyone, and see you then.